Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. Now, so this current tree that I'm working on is we're going to require a lot of stamp work. Stamp meaning these half-inch, letter and number stamps to honor a lot of the donors and things to build this tree. Now, when I'm stamping this half-inch stuff, usually use a larger hammer so you don't have to swing as hard, so it's nice and precise, but it has enough inertia to go down into the steel. So when you're holding on to this tiny little piece of half-inch bar, and then you're coming down with a lot of hammer, I have smashed my fingers so good so many times, and I think it's high time that I build a tool to uphold them and even hold them in a row, almost like how a printing press works. I have this piece of 1-inch plate that I cut out. I mean, who knows how many years ago. I'm gonna use this to make a new tool. Let's get to work. Alrighty, so I feel like I have pretty much my general layout, established. And the idea is to hold on to something and then have 3 or less of these stamps held in a row by just kind of almost like a little wing nut, from one wing nut to another. And then I'm gonna cut out the slot so I can, make that nice and sharp so that it'll hold these nice and firm. I'm using 1 inch so that these are nice and held in and they're not too wobbly. Yeah, and then I'll just tap that hole right here for a set screw, and then I'll end up forging this tail out long so I have something nice and thin to hold on to. I think this is gonna go great. Now what I'm going to do is put some center holes here just to kind of get me started. Then we can cut it out. Alrighty, now that we have our holes drilled, this is a really good reason to keep, be really up on your chops with oxy cutting, because now we can just cut this thing out easy peasy. All right, let's do this. Okay, so now that I have, kind of the edges roughly cleaned up, now it's time to get in here with a file and rasp to clean this out and square it up. And now that we have all this nice and cleaned up, it's beautiful, it's time to get our center figured out. Got that all good. And now we're gonna just set a center punch so that we can drill the hole for our set screw. Right there, 5/16. Now that we have our hole centered and countersunk, all that jazz, eventually what I'll do is I will tap this so that we can set a nice grade A set screw down through there to hold the pieces in place. But before I go and do that, I'm going to forge this tail that I left just totally wild out a lot thinner. And the reason for that is, and also the same reason why I made this all one piece of metal, is so that when this thing goes through years and years of shock and force, because there's gonna be a big hammer coming down on it, there's no spot for it to crack or welds to split or whatever have you. But with that big hammer on the one side of it, I don't want this to be nice and hardy. I want it to actually have a bit of flex. So I'm gonna forge this out into a nice long, kind of elaborate handle so that when I do strike it, my hand feels very little of it. It's time to forge. Now that we have our general shape kind of laid out for this tool, feels great in the hand, now it's time to tap this hole. We're just about through the other side. Oh, it's getting hot, which makes everything kind of tighten up a little bit. So I'm trying to take my time here. We're just about through. Just trying to pray to the tap gods. I believe I used this tap once before and I think it's a little worn out. Plus I've got about 3/4 of an inch of threads here. Well, let's go. I see tap. Oh, God, that scared me. All right, we got our little wing nut in there. Works great. Let's give it a test. Screw it up. It works perfect. Obviously, get these nice and squared up, but works like a charm. Ha!